What's up, everybody? It's me. It's James here. We have another solo edition. Evie is here, technically. Say hi, Evie.
What?
There you go. Evie just got back from tryouts for a musical, so we didn't know she'd be back in time. So I set up a solo run tonight. So I think next week we'll have both of us here again. So this week you're stuck with me and just me. And I don't remember if last week, I think last week I still had my bookshelf behind me. And this week we do not, because there was a leak above here again for like the second time since moving to this apartment. Fortunately, we're on the tail end of that, so we'll be off to somewhere a lot better here soon with like a really cool, awesome super gaming dungeon area or whatever. We're going to see. Anyway, all right, so here we go. Tonight's episode, tonight's show is actually brought to us from a question or a topic suggested by my friend Tim Baker about game mechanics for my favorite games. Since he tossed the question or the topic my way when I was looking for one, I'll be sending him something cool. And I have a few things cool to send out, and we're going to play with that mechanic too. If you contribute to the show ahead of the show or help me come up with a topic beforehand, you will get swag, because I have some swag, which is cool. Anyway, gaming this week has been pretty cool on my end. I had more coffee of the Demon Lord yesterday. We finished A Knife in Your Hand by Shauna Germain, which is an adventure for Shadow of the Demon Lord. And a really, really cool, very, very twisted adventure. You could really easily reskin it for just about any role-playing game out there that you wanted. That's a fantasy role-playing game. You could probably reskin it for sci-fi if you really wanted to. Obviously, it would work best with the Shadow of the Demon Lord rules, but I'm having now looked at some of the initial stuff or the preview materials for Punk Apocalyptic. It would work for that too, or you could really easily add it to Dungeon Crawl Classics, or just do a quick. I'm sure those D&D fans out there could D&D this crap. I'm easily. It wouldn't be hard. So that was Coffee the Demon Lord, and then on Friday we had our DCC RPG game with the Shrubs with Judge Evie's friends. My eldest, Carrie, she joined us for that with her new character, Illusion, and I think we're going to have an episode once I finish the miniature Illusion to just talk about that character, which should be cool. It's been a while since that kid's been doing any gaming with me at all, so it's kind of cool that she's back at the table. And for that game, it was nothing crazy. We didn't do anything super special with regards to adventures. I just threw something together with the Dwarven Forge that I had. If you follow me on Twitter at @ILiveForCrits, you can take a look at some of the setups that we had for that. On the electronic side, since last week I finished Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, this week I cracked into the Witcher Enhanced Edition, which I have had for years. But now that I'm watching the show, I thought I'd give it another try. I'm still only a few hours into it. I've played it before, back on PC a few years back, and I didn't get very far. I thought that the combat mechanic was kind of quirky. Giving it another try now that I have some of the background from the show. I like the feel, I like the tone. I always like the tone for the game. I just didn't understand or get the combat mechanics of it. So I'm going to try to power through that on easy and then be able to jump into Witcher 2 maybe. It takes a long time to play through games though. It can take me years. It was 18 months to finish Breath of the Wild. Cooper just finished Breath of the Wild today, and he beat that like in 31 days. So I don't have the skills nor the time anymore. But anyway, now that we are done with that, let's go over the one question for the section I'm going to call Judge James Presides for a second week in a row. So going forward next week, if you have a question for Judge Evie, you can ask at dccjudgeevie@gmail.com. And based on how many questions we may have received there over the last couple weeks and she has not joined us, it's quite possible next week could be an all Ask Judge Evie week. This week, though, if you want questions to me, I would say the best thing to do is to send them to @ILiveForCrits on Twitter, and I'll answer them here But David Preston asked, any advice before going into a session 0 on a post-apocalyptic sci-fi fantasy campaign? So things I'm considering are how much tech players want to have access to, and if people still want to have wizards and clerics, etc. All right, that's a really great question, especially if your session 0 is going to be 0 level characters. If you're doing that and you're going for 0 level characters, I give some serious consideration to doing a custom 0 level character generator, like for the occupation, something that fits the world. Either the world that the characters are going to exist in when you start, or the world they came from. If you're going for that like Nintendo SNK game Crystallis, where everyone just opens up in a pod and now they're in the future, then you can have modern occupations. If you're going for something where the character is everyone's already in the current, whatever the current post-apocalyptic sci-fi fantasy tech era is, it's not hard to come up with 50 to 100 occupations. And if you go to purplesorcerer.com, you can find quite a few 0 level occupations there to dig into. If you're looking into games that aren't DCC, I know we've drifted outside the DCC realm as I've been talking more about Shadow of the Demon Lord. As for a session 0, if we're talking about like a true session 0 where you're just sitting down with friends to decide what you want everyone to be, then maybe just lay the ground rules early for what you want to see at your table or what you don't want to see at your table. If you want everyone to be, some kind of weird alien species or something like that, let them know so not everyone's a human and vice versa. So I'm not sure if that answers your question or not, but, hopefully I touched on it a little bit. So we'll see. Let's see here. Okay, we're going to dip into, it's a quiet chat room tonight, so we're gonna stick over to I think the main core of the questions. Maybe a short night tonight. That's okay. Again, if Evie's not here, she's a little old me. I totally understand. So, all right. Tim Baker asked for a topic tonight to go over mechanics that I've enjoyed in games and how I use them to create house rules in other games. For example, how could a funnel work in Shadow of the Demon Lord? How would you include GM intrusions in DCC? What mechanics might herald the apocalypse in Numenera? So for helping me with that, I will be sending Tim a copy of Chris West's Maps of Mastery, The Forsaken Lands. So this is going to be going to Tim's way, from me via Chris, kinda. So there we go. Again, the shout out to this, if you do a search for mapsofmastery.com, you can find all of these maps and more so, both in PDF form, image forms. You can download them. You can buy them. They're in print. He goes to Gen Con every year with his awesome wife, and they have a really, really great stash and collection of maps to purchase. I use these for quite a few games, and I managed to get my hands some extras, which is cool. So these are going to those who help contribute to the show. All right. Oh, and now everyone's here. Look at that. So Rob is here, and Joan is here, and Shannon's here. What is up, everyone? And yes, the shelf is gone. It's going to get packed up, but the real reason is, and I can't tilt the camera back far enough, is that the ceiling is leaking again for the third time since we moved here. So, all right. So into the question here, okay? What I thought I'd do first is maybe go through the games I seem to have played the most, or my favorite games, and dip into what's a single rule or system from that game that I could port out easily into other games, and how could they work in other games, okay? So I went with, first off, I thought I'd go start with my favorite role-playing game system that I own, something that I think everyone is well aware that I have and is my absolute favorite, and that's Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition. Look at that, right there. This is everything you could want in a game is right here, right? Pretty how is this here? I don't know how this is even in this house. We're gonna put that down. Actually, we're gonna put this wherever. We needed something to sop up the water as it comes through the ceiling, so we're gonna put this on the floor just so the water can get sopped up. I think we'll open up to a very fitting page. Where is the page of that like jacked up halfling? If you don't know, the primary reason I have a problem with this game, the thing that really destroyed this game for me, that off the bat ruined everything about this game before I'd even read any further, was when I flipped through it and I saw the half. Where is the halfling? Why is the halfling not here? There are still halflings in this game, right? I can't find it. Oh, there it is. What's up with that? What's going on with that halfling's head? Look at the foot to head ratio of that halfling. No. No, this thing's going to sop up some ceiling leakage. Anyway. Alright, so y'all know I'm messing a little bit. Gotta mess with my 5e friends, especially Shannon there. Gotta toss a little shade. Alright, so I'm going to go to each game system. I'm going to grab one rule or mechanic that I think is one of the best out of the system, but is easily portable. And if it's not a mechanic, it might be a theme, okay? Because I think one of the games is more of a theme. So here we go. And I got another week of me and my green tea. So here's a sip for all y'all. Some good tea. All right. We're going to start with Cypher System, which would also include Numenera and the Strange, but I've got my, or our, is it mine? I think this is actually Jen's, copy of the newest Cypher System rulebook. So if you play Numenera, this is the game that runs, this is the mechanic that runs Numenera. Of course, Numenera has its own book, so this would be used if you're going to run, any of the like Gods of the Fall, Unmasked, or oh crap, there was that dinosaur one. Why is my brain is not working? I can see it in my head. The dinosaur RPG. Predation. I just heard Predation whispered to me from somewhere. What's the one I haven't played? Well, I don't have time. So I thought I'd dip into this for the first mechanic that would be easily portable into other games, and that's going to be GM Intrusions. So you know what a GM Intrusion is? A GM Intrusion is where, so first off, in the Cypher System, the GM has no control of the table other than telling the story, because the GM is presenting scenes, but the players do all the rolling. The players roll to attack and roll to dodge. They roll to cast a spell and they roll to dodge a spell. The GM doesn't roll for anything except for occasionally for a random item or something like that. So the one way that a GM can interact with the game is through a GM intrusion, and how that would work is the GM offers the player character a experience point, actually 2 experience points. The player character can opt to take one and give another to their player, so they take 2 for the party, which they can use to level up, advance their character, or they can use to re-roll. And they, in turn, something happens to their character, something that could be adverse, something that can create a complication. So it could be that they're trying to climb a wall, and the GM intrusion is they slip, now they're dangling, and they need someone else's help to save them. Or it could be that they're going to be casting a spell, and while the spell works, there is a negative side effect they have to cope with as well. So maybe they destroy They attack the Lich Lord, and the Lich Lord's arm comes off and is now another monster they have to deal with. So the Lich Lord's damaged, but then there's this arm running around. That could be a cool GM intrusion as well. So I think GM intrusions of any of the games that I play, it'd be really easy to put that into any game as long as you have a way to reward the player characters. So in Savage Worlds, you could use it to give bennies, and I've done that. I've used a Savage Intrusion before, where I've offered bennies to the table for a GM Intrusion. For Dungeon Crawl Classics, it can be for luck, or fleeting luck, especially in the new DCC Lankmar. And in Shadow of the Demon Lord, you could use it to give fortune, which is something a character has or doesn't. I believe that mechanic in 5e is called Inspiration. It's very similar. So that's GM Intrusions. I was also, like, a runner-up would have been the Cyphers themselves. I really enjoy in the Cypher System and Numenera the fast spend of magical items, that they aren't being hoarded. So if you wanted to get some Cypher System feel behind your game, maybe give out more potions, more one-use rings and items, consider taking your magic items from Dungeons and Dragons or other games and making them single-use or more single-use items and promote them to spend them. So, but we're going to say GM Intrusions for Cypher System. That's a mechanic that really works anywhere. For Savage Worlds, this is my new Suede edition, my Savage Worlds Adventure edition core book. So this came in the mail a few months back. Also, an awesome game. You know what we got? Shannon says Arcana of the Ancients is bringing ciphers to 5e. This is true. I actually should say, in all seriousness, that the fact that Arcana of the Ancients is coming and the fact that there is a 5e Talus now being kickstarted, which if you haven't seen, go to Monty Cook Games and look at their news, I guess. There is a 5e and a Cypher edition of Talus coming, the big giant box set or core book I tried getting back in the or early 2000s for 3rd edition. It's one of the few reasons why this book still exists. There is still a chance, albeit slim, that when Arcana of the Ancients pops out, I'll be giving this another shot, at least as a player. Not sure if it really depends on what's in the Arcana of the Ancients. And again, Jennifer from Monty Cook Games doesn't tell me crap, so I don't know what's in there. All right? She is the worst, as she just said. But let's talk about another game that isn't the worst, and that's Savage Worlds. All right? I don't know if you can hear her back there. She's like mocking me. So, Bennies, aka the flowing in-game currency mechanic, which is so similar to luck or fortune or XP, but there really is no game that does that in-game currency as well as Savage Worlds and the Bennies system. So what Bennies are, they allow you to re-roll any die roll that happens. They also, in the new edition, my favorite mechanics in Suede is the initiative is card-based, it's playing card-based. So at the beginning of every combat, you hand out playing cards, and that's the order you go in. So it's very easy to figure out the order. This game lets you give your card back by spending a Benny. So what makes Savage Worlds' Benny system great is it's a constant back and forth. And there's some GMs do it really, really well. So my friend Rob, Savage Philly GM, is on here if he's listening. His table, I got to play with him. It was my only second time playing Savage Worlds. He ran a really cool session of why I say brain. It's the my brain tank is not working. It's the Mafia game for Savage Worlds, and I'm sure someone will toss it out there. But it was a Mafia game for Savage Worlds. Wise Guys, there we go. And that the Benny economy is flowing. We're spending Bennies to re-roll. We're doing crazy things. He's giving us more Bennies. Bennies are going back and forth, and they really tip the scales in both directions of the game very, very well. Unlike Fortune or Inspiration, you can get more of them and hoard them, which you might want to do if you think you're going to die, because you can use them to not die later on. But unlike XP from the Cypher system, you don't need to use them for leveling up. In the old Deadlands system, Deadlands Classic, essentially what Savage Worlds kind of derived from, the fate chips from that game were used to level your character as well. And you kind of had to decide, do I want to survive this encounter or do I want to level up? So not being tied to advancement, I really enjoy the Benny system from Savage Worlds. So I think that could be ported very easily into most games if you wanted to, take the Benny theme and adapt it to Cypher System. Don't maybe have XP that doesn't have to be spent and XP that you do spend. Maybe call it something different. Just call it Bennies. Why not? Call it Shins. Whatever. Call it something ciphery. But the point is, the reason I think it's a great mechanic in Savage Worlds is there's no fear in using it. My wife's characters in our old campaign for The Strange were always stunted in level growth because she hates missing rolls. So since she doesn't like to miss a roll, she would always blow her XP on re-rolling. But then everyone else would level up around her because they would use their XP more wisely in that regard. So I think Bennies do it better when it regards to that system. All right, so moving along to Dungeon Crawl Classics. Let's see here. Phantom Tim is saying, I allow icon advantages in 13th Age to be used like Bennies, becoming a player resource. I think it's a good time to note that one thing I'm doing in 2020 is I'm trying to play more role-playing games, especially fantasy role-playing games. So part of the reason I got into Shadow of the Demon Lord this year was I wanted to dip my toes into something that wasn't just, I love it, wasn't just DCC, but also things that aren't, I don't know, aren't games. They're just out there they're getting more money for Hasbro, more corporate money. So I do plan on giving 13th Age another try this year. I've played it once before. I want to play Fantasy Age again. There's a few games I want to try again, but I am not sure what icon advantages are, but yeah, I'd be interested to see what that looks like and how that would work. And I think also in 13th Age, if I remember, there was a thing, it was like one interesting thing or one good thing. Every character had one cool feature that was totally unique or bizarre about themselves. There was one unique thing. I think it was the acronym was OUT, wasn't it? Yeah. I that's something I'd really like to give a shot to. I think that would be a system. That would be a mechanic, I think, or at least a trapping that would work well in any game. Also, from the one game I played with it. All right. Anyway, Dungeon Crawl Classics. So chat about this. I have a hard time thinking about the DCC and what's one mechanic in this. Now I was going off the rules here of something that could work in any game. Tim had mentioned, how could a funnel work in Shadow of the Demon Lord? Easily, because 0-level characters are so squishy in Shadow of the Demon Lord, you can do the same thing. A funnel in the Cypher System would be a lot harder, but I know that Mark Plord on Inspiration Strikes, his blog post, or I think it's inspstrikes.com, has a blog post for like a Cypher System funnel, which has far less stat pools for characters, no types, or it's very basic types. In Savage Worlds, there is the is it the shark? It's not Sharknado. It's Trailer Park Shark Attack. If you go looking for that on Drive-Thru-RPG, you will find how a funnel would work for I think that's by Carl Kiesler. How a funnel would work for Savage Worlds, at least. So I didn't go with funnel with this. I reached out and I went with charts of random crap. That's what I'm pulling here, okay? Is that if there's one cool thing from here that you can put in any other game and take it with you and port it over, it'd be charts of random stuff happening. And what do I mean by that? Well, you have spell effects, you have the phlogiston disturbances, you have things happening on the Purple Planet, you have carousing tables in DCC Lankmar. There's so many things in this book that are just charts. The critical charts, for instance, and we're gonna start with that. Okay, the critical charts especially. These charts in this game can totally make or break your story in the best possible way. Andy said that's the real DCC subtitle. What, charts of random crap? All right, so I'm going to the crit table. Okay, so like for instance, giants. This is one of the charts of random crap. Okay, so for giants, a crit table here is when a giant rolls a critical hit. So in any game, you could say whether that's going to be whether you're going to do a player in Cypher System rolls a 1 when they're dodging, they get critical somehow. Or in Savage Worlds, maybe so many raises on a die step. The PC could be flattened. The PC have a colossal head strike, does 2d6 extra damage to the PC, and they lose intelligence. There's charts, there's all kinds of charts in this book and other DCC books that are really easy to take elsewhere. And I really believe that they build on your campaign. The one that I don't have here is the carousing tables of a DCC Lankmar. I think the carousing tables from DCC Lankmar can work in any urban campaign. Doesn't matter what you're running, whether you're running Numenera, Shadow of the Demon Lord, D&D 5th edition, you can use the carousing tables. So if there's one thing in Dungeon Crawl Classics that because a lot of this game it's got its OSR elements. It's very, very much like a 3rd edition on steroids in a way. But the charts in here and all the random stuff that can happen, that's something that's very DCC. It's very portable. We have some comments. Rob is saying, I'm starting to use an expanded Benny system where players can earn a Benny that is durable between sessions to give a +1 to one type of roll or another, soak, skill, and so on. That way the lull between advances won't feel so long as rewards can be gained every session. I like that, especially if you're doing something where you aren't leveling every session. You aren't advancing every session. So that's cool. It's a cool mechanic. There's so much you can do with Bennies. Bennies are wonderful. And Beasts and Barbarians is a cool carousing mechanic as well, he says. Another game I always wanted to give a shot with, it's a Savage World setting, but didn't. I always feel like this is my Conan game if I'm going to do something that's Conan-ish. But, again, there's just not enough time. Not enough time in the day. So, all right. Here we go. And the last one this week we'll talk about. If you have any questions or other comments, start tossing them out. Shadow the Demon Lord, my current new love, the game I've been playing. I've got 4 sessions of this, 5 if you count session 0 this year into this game. This is the game that I get up at the crack of dawn on Saturdays and play. And when you are dealing with one of your player characters who's an orc being impregnated by a monster that lays an egg in his stomach with a baby monster that's going to claw its way out at like 7:30 in the morning. This will wake you up. This game wakes you up. So the one mechanic I say really works well in Shadow the Demon Lord that's different. I went with something that's different, and I wanted something that had to be applicable to other game systems. Again, I love Shadow the Demon Lord for the how interesting and how diverse the character bases are. How you can, how fluid you can move from a warrior type to a wizard type, or how you can double down. How every character, there's just millions of different varieties of characters. That's not portable. What's portable in Shadow the Demon Lord is the adventure and campaign design that optimizes a start and finish for a reasonable amount of time for a grown-up or a series of grown-ups that don't have every Saturday for 8 hours to spend playing a campaign for 3 years, but they want to experience a full story. They want to experience a season of Netflix, Starting out at first level is great, and ending at 20th level is fantastic, but how many campaigns fizzle? So I think that's one thing Shadow the Demon Lord does well, is it aims for the sweet spot of having a campaign where you can really, realistically, within, 12 to 24 sessions, start and finish a campaign and have it be fulfilling. It's not something that feels rushed, and it's not something that feels... unsatisfying. We'll see after I finish this campaign, and the way you can port that is by quick leveling, and really, peaking your game out at a more modest level. Having, there's no reason why monsters you fight at 10th level in a Dungeons & Dragons campaign can't be pretty awesome monsters. I know that in 2nd edition D&D, you were pretty powerful at 9th and 10th level. So you could have a world-ending game at that point and have it make sense. I think that you could take that aspect into other games. Adventure Edition of Savage Worlds already has it, and then they do offer the concept of giving advance every single adventure. You could do the same for Numenera. Just make sure you're giving out 4 XP per game, no matter what, so you'd have a 24 game arc. And Dungeon Crawl Classics, you might want to get away from the XP system in DCC and go to number of adventures, some similar to Savage Worlds, to level up, or Shadow the Demon Lord. I like that system. I like that mechanic. I think that's something that's portable. So, we got some comments. Mogideon 9K says, "Oh my God, it's the live show." There's a live show. This angle I feel kind of like, the boss from The Office looking at the camera. All this empty space here. And Phantom Tim says, the 5e game I'm a player in does the same 1 level per adventure advancement. So every session or 2 we level up. I like that. I like that setup. I do. So tie this all together. Back to Tim's comment. I could see a Cypher System campaign. Let's pick Gods of the Fall. The characters are going to be gods. at some point. It's fantasy. It is superheroes. I'm crushing on it a little bit right now for some reason. Just been reading through it, trying to pick the first game I'm going to run in the new house. But take that where the XP flows like Bennies. Okay, so you're going to play Gods of the Fall, but you're not going to spend XP is just for XP. And you have another, you can have something else, you can call it astral points, something else that would function as for re-rolling mechanic, like how XP is supposed to function for Cypher System, and that way it's not tied together. Does it break a few things? Probably, but this way it's flowing more freely like a Savage Worlds game. Have some random charts in there for criticals, and maybe for weird and bizarre happenings around the world. Maybe you could take and pull the carousing table from Lankmar, and then for whenever you're traveling the world of Shadow of the Demon Lord, of Gods of the Fall, you could use the you could use the random encounters for hex crawling for Peril of the Purple Planet, so that would work. And then finally, just have the character advance once per session. So I think that gives you 15 to 18 advances would get you up to 6th tier, something like that. I don't know where the math might be right there, but I can't math today. So anyway, Mogidian, you can ask. The topic tonight was just about how we can take rules from different. He's asking if there's a topic tonight where you come out and ask us questions. So you could do both. You can ask a question. I'll answer anything. So I'll answer your question in a second here. There was a topic. The topic was how do you pull systems from some of my favorite role-playing games and toss them into other role-playing games, and how would they work? So kind of covered all of that. So I'm going to go to the questions here. So we got some follow-ups here. Tim's saying, I would be thrilled if every system had a book like Forbidden Rules for Shadow of the Demon Lord with optional rules and variants. I have the book now. I have not read it yet. So we'll see what's in there. I know there's a different system for Magic in there, so that's cool. I think there's also some different novice paths. I know there are some different novice paths out there in some of the Splat PDFs. So a lot of Splat for Shadow of the Demon Lord. I will say I'm not a big fan of a ton of Splat, and there's a bit much for my taste possibly, but it's not overwhelmingly so. I wish there was more in print and not just in PDF. I have all of the print on demands now, I believe, with the exception of Godless, which I do want to get, but there is quite a bit of meat out there. But once you kind of have all the players have their characters picked out, I don't think you'd experience too much of the Splat heaviness. My Splat concern always is I don't like fantasy role-playing games where you walk into a tavern and it feels like the cantina scene from a Star Wars movie. That's usually my issue. And our party in the game does kind of feel like that, but doesn't feel wrong. We have, an orc, a goblin, a clockwork, and then a changeling who appears human currently. So it's pretty cool. And in our game, the apocalyptic stuff is just happening just to the humans. So the monstrous creatures are going to figure out why. So that's kind of cool. As to Mogidian, I don't know if I'm pronouncing your handle here, but I'm trying. 9Ks, can we ask how you're finding DCC Lankmar? I am enjoying DCC Lankmar. Call me Mog. All right, Mog. I am enjoying DCC Lankmar quite a lot. I'm enjoying the urban adventures instead of being out in the wilderness or in the dungeon. I think that's pretty cool. I really like the carousing table, and I've found that even though it's just 3 classes, it hasn't felt inhibiting at all. So yeah, I think it's the material's great so far. Adventure wise, we've played 2. We played the Madhouse Meet, and we've played No Small Crimes in Lankmar. Now I've done a few sessions of Lankmar with an online group that used to play like once a month on Saturday nights. Andy Trogdar, he was in that group, and I'm sure I'm going to get some grief for the fact that the game kind of ended, but I can't stay awake past 9:30 at night anymore. I start falling asleep. So I was falling asleep at our DCC game on Friday actually while I was running it. And it's live. Get Dwarven Forge crap out. I'm just kind of like I need to go to sleep. This is killing me. But I played everything I played in Lankmar. I really enjoyed a lot. So there you go. It's a great box set. It's a gorgeous box set. It's a must buy if you are a DCC fan. All right, Savage Philly GM. It's Rob says, when I played Pathfinder Adventure Paths, I like the level benchmark breakdown in each book. That way you never had to worry about XP. When you get to this point, you level up. I think it makes things really easy. You know, just simplifies the entire experience for your experience for your characters, especially if you're trying to decide how much XP to give. And nothing can be more challenging than getting to a point where you in your campaign where you're between adventures maybe and the character's level, and that can be a challenge because like how is it happening realistically? Are you gonna make them wait for it, which is kind of sucks. But if you don't and you just give them the level and they get a new spell, how did that happen while we're stuck in a swamp, right? So just plan it out. That's my thoughts. Tim says, have you tried Godless? I have not yet. The more modern post-apocalyptic content for Shadow of the Demon Lord. I have not played Godless yet. So it is the one book I actually have only played now 5 sessions of Shadow of the Demon Lord. Once as a player 4 years ago, and then these last 4 as a GM. So that's the extent. I do want to play more though. I am liking it. Mog says, my group had fun with all of its encounters and acting up in Lankmar. And that's one that I have not played. I have all the Lankmar adventures. I just gotta sit down and play them. So, I see where it says acting up is crazy. All right, well, that's the show. For Road Crew shoutouts, I'll toss a few out here. We got one this week with the one every week, Judge Sean at D6 Games in Rochester, Minnesota on Monday nights. If you are running games in person, please get those out here in the verse. Send them over to me, and I will talk about them and we'll mention them to us. Actually, us. It's not me because Evie's here usually too. It's just been the last couple weeks she hasn't been able to make it. I think there's one more here I want to get to because Rob has got one for I'm going to find it here and talk about it for real brief. This is for the Delaware Valley Savages. That he is. If you don't know who that is, go on Facebook and look up Delaware Valley Savages, and he is starting penciling it for March 8th here, like an ongoing Savage Sunday event for East Texas University. So like an ongoing campaign at our events. So just something to toss out there. We have Savage Worlds events here in the Philadelphia area, and you can get in on one of those, which would be cool because it's Savage Worlds. All right, that's that. I want to thank everyone. If you want, hopefully next week, Judge Evie will be back. And if we have lots of questions at dccjudgeevie@gmail.com, we will just go into all of those questions that way. May have less stuff. Maybe these pictures will be gone by next week as we start packing up. So this will get sparse behind us. There's a good possibility that around the middle to end of February, we'll be off the air for a couple weeks just as we move. So we'll give you a heads up before that happens. Maybe we'll do something where it's just a shout out over on YouTube to show you we're alive. But as we go through that process, hopefully by March, we'll be recording in our new gaming tavern that'll be beneath our house because we're building that over there, and that'll be cool. But all right, so where to find us is at I Live for Crits on Twitter, Living for Crits on Instagram, and you can always search Living for Crits on YouTube for the long category. If you are watching us on YouTube, you can watch live on twitch.tv/Living for Crits. If you are watching this on Twitch, you can go over to YouTube. Whenever you're over there, though, on YouTube, please like and comment. You can continue the questions. I will always respond to questions over there. So I have no problem digging in. If you have any questions after this or comments, I will take part. I'm happy to do so. And Rob says, "Yard of the tavern. The tavern will be cool." And Mog, thank you for the thank you. Gangs of Lankmar is nice for introducing the setting and setting the party up with a base. There's so much awesomeness in Lankmar. All those adventures are so good. It really is a lot of great stuff for it. So, and what's cool was the DCC Lankmar stuff complements the Savage Worlds Lankmar stuff, and vice versa. So, if you have one, now it doesn't hurt to have the other, and I have both, so I feel I have all the Lankmar. So, and some of the books. All right, folks, we're going to wrap it there. So, as always, I will do the outro ASMR without Judge Evie, which means no laughing this week. If you go to some of the old content, you can catch some of that. And yes, Mog, there is a Savage Worlds Lankmar. They both had the license, or both have the license to do so, or the rights to do so. So there is a definitely different feel, but there are multiple Lankmars you can purchase right now. All right, so here we go. As I have finished Breath of the Wild last week, I'm just